So hopefully this won't take too long. I tend to put my makeup on in about 5 to 10 minutes depending on how much my children interrupt me, but they're already at school. So hopefully this will be a pretty quick go of it. I posted what it is that I'm using. I do not yet have the Savvy brushes, but I've decided I need to get them because they're kind of amazing, and I felt them the other day when my friend had gotten the kit, and I felt them another time too, and that's one of my next want lists, but you know how that is when all your needs bump your wants. So here's how we get started with foundation, and if you have any questions in real time, feel free to go ahead and comment them. I have Cool 1 foundation and I use Cool 2 foundation because I'm kind of right in the middle this time of year. In the summer, Cool 2 was a lot more appropriate, but I need the Cool 1 for highlights. So Cool 2, I just tap a little. You'll see in my foundation I didn't open it all the way so that it doesn't all end up on top. When you travel, sometimes that's impossible to avoid, but do what you can. It's not a big deal if it ends up in the top. Just put a little bit in your lid each time you're using it. That way you don't get too much on your brush. Alright, so I just tap it into the top, and I'll try and, I don't know if you'll be able to see my lids. I tried to angle this, but I'm afraid if I try to angle it too much, it's just going to pop right off of my holder. Alright, so you get a nice flat foundation brush. It is important to have different kinds of brushes. That's one thing that I've noticed. So you can't do all the same brushes for everything. You take the misting spray and you spray that twice. Did I do that off camera? Sorry. Twice. And you don't want it sopping wet, but you want it damp enough that you can feel the wetness from it. I'm going to take my Cool 2 foundation. Just so you know, this is what I did. This is not like me. I am not normally this organized, but I labeled all of my lids because I was losing track of them, and because when I go to find them in my bin, it's a lot easier. So that's what I was looking at the bottom to make sure I had the two. Alright, so you just tap it in there, get it nice and coated on the front of the brushes. You can kind of like tap off of there. Another trick that I've seen people do is tap down so that the minerals go down into the brush rather than floating away. You'll get a little bit of debris when you're putting it on, but the misting spray really helps with that so that it sticks to your brush. And I always start on my cheeks and my nose, like just the larger areas, with the first application. Go back into your lid, pick up more, get them nice and solid in there. If your brush starts to feel dry, you're going to want, and I'm trying to do this in my camera, so this may be a little tricky. I do have a mirror here if I need it. You're going to want to add a little misting spray if you need to. And if you want more coverage, thicker coverage, then what you do is you pretty much just repeat that. So you add and do it again. So I'm going to do a little bit of the one that I have here. This is Cool 1. You don't need two colors, but I've just found that I feel like it helps my for my skin. So everybody's a little bit different. And also I just have very pink skin, so I prefer to tone it down a little bit. I am definitely a Cool. We color matched, and the way you can color match, if you know somebody who has the foundation, you can color match that way. If you don't know someone who has the foundation, there's lots of tips, and I know Jocelyn just posted a bunch from beauty school on how to color match. But the blue veins, I have very blue veins, so I'm definitely a pink skin tone. Other people will have more of a green vein coming through there because they have tanner skin tones. I burn in the summertime, and I know I'm definitely a Cool. So although I'll be honest, I got warm at first when I first got started, and I didn't want to waste it, and I didn't really know any better, and I felt like it was very forgiving. So I take my Cool 1, if you have a lighter shade, and I get it into those areas where we want a little extra brightening. And I have a specific tinier brush for this. I know that there's actually a brush now for, what's this called? I don't know what they call it. Now I'm forgetting. There's a brush for this. I can remember it at some point. I haven't had my coffee. And then I just blend that in too. When we were at beauty school at Winter Harvest, they called that baking, where you just pat it into the space and let it kind of soak into what's there. Oh, before I got on camera, I forgot to say, I did use the Art Renewal Serum. I just got this and I love it. It really helps with the everything kind of going on a little bit smoother, and also has like a slight tackiness to it, so I found that it's really helped with things sticking a little bit better too. Alright, now I've got my foundation pretty much filled in. I tend to do my eyes next. I don't think there's a right way or a wrong way to do this, you guys. I really think you just have to do it. It's kind of like oils. You just got to get started. Alright, so I take a highlighter and I put it up here. This is Wanderlust. I like to get that right up under my brow for brightening. And sometimes if I'm feeling, you know, a little flashier, I'll get it in here. You can also do the same thing with the Best Kept Secret. That comes with all of the kits. And I'll show it to you real quick. So you can see that it's very skin toned. Best Kept Secret. It has no sparkle. It's very matte, and it does a really good job of prepping the eyelids. So some people talk about how they have oily eyelids. Putting this on first is really helpful because it gives a matte foundation for the eyeshadow to go on. Everybody's so different, so you just kind of have to learn what your skin does. My next color that I'm going to use is Spoiled. And it's kind of a peachier, I don't know if you can see that, it's like peachy. I'm also doing this backwards so that the writing's not messed up. I put Spoiled right here at the edge of my eyelid. I feel like this looks really nice on blue eyes, but it also comes in the warm kit, and I put it on other people with brown eyes and it looks great too. So I feel like it's a very versatile. This is a great color for spring. It's light, but it has a nice shimmer to it. One of the tricks that you can do if you want a little extra shimmer, take a little bit of your misting spray, put it in your palm, and then get your brush wet. I don't know if I want this brush wet. I just want to show you. So I'm going to get a different brush. Get the brush a little bit wet, and then pick up some of your minerals. In your lid especially is helpful for this, and you can just kind of get them wetter, and this is called foiling, and basically what it does is it puts the color on a lot thicker and it draws out those pigments. So you can see, I'll try and, I don't know if my lighting's good enough, but you can see this one's foiled and this one's not, and it's a lot darker of a color. And then I gotta do the other side. So you're just going to get like a thicker pigmentation doing it that way with a little moisture. I've used water in a pinch. I've used witch hazel because I like have it there for my toner. Alright, so I put Spoiled on. I'm going back to my dry brush because the next color I'm going to use is Determined, and Determined is pretty dark. I don't really always, like if I'm going to foil this or put this on wet, it's usually for like night or for something fancy, because I find that this one's dark enough. So you put the darker right up under the ridge and a little bit in that crease, and you kind of can get them to sort of connect right in there. So I just do a little bit right up under there. I feel like that looks pretty dramatic in the but you can see, not done. Done. So it adds the extra depth and shadow that, especially as we get older, we kind of lose because our crease deepens. And you don't need a ton. So I feel like these eyeshadows are going to last me forever because, except that I keep using them on other people, but you really don't need much. I literally pick up, see how there's like thicker parts of the pigment in the lid? I just go into the lid and grab a little bit quite often. If there's none in there, then you just grab a tiny little bit with the edge of your brush in the bottom part. But the only Savvy Minerals that I've had to replace since June was the foundation because you're using more, you're covering a greater area, you're looking for a greater coverage. So everything else has really lasted for a while. Alright, so that was 3 different colors on my eyes: highlight, color, and shadow, darker shadow. You can choose how you want to do it. There's so many different ways to do eyes. Again, I feel like it's just something that you have to practice. And go lighter if you aren't sure. So the eyeliner. This is the brush that I use when I'm doing eyeliner. It's not going to focus very well, is it? It's just an angled brush and it's pretty thin. There is an eyeliner brush that pretty much just looks like a really tiny paintbrush and it's just that top part. You could do either. I like to do wet eyeliner, so I tend to put a little liquid in my hand. So I don't always use my misting spray though, just so you know. Sometimes I just have like actually this is what I have. Hi Allison. I have a little bottle, and inside of this, my sister brought this back to me from Egypt, but inside it just has a little dauber and it gives me a little bit, I have like a witch hazel lavender mix in there. So that's what I actually use to make my liner in the morning. If you're in a bathroom, just use water. It doesn't need to be fancy. And so I take this, and I'm going to try to do this on the camera, but I find this a little more tricky to do. I spread my eyelid out a little bit so it's nice and tight, and instead of drawing a line, because what happens with a paintbrush when you draw is the bristles spread out, I just kind of dab a line if I don't want it very thick. And I change the angle. You can draw a line if you have a brush that's a little bit narrower. So you can see, done, not done. You can see the difference. I actually, a lot of times, will just wear a liner like this without wearing any mascara, because I feel like it darkens up my eyes enough. And to be honest, I don't have the Young Living mascara yet, and the one that I do have, it's probably not as natural as I wish it was, but also it flakes, so the rest of my makeup stays put and I end up with mascara flakes all on my cheeks. Alright, so I'm gonna do the other eye. Really, the number one thing is don't have your brush too wet. You can also do this dry, and then don't feel like you need to go beyond your eyelid too much. I literally just take the tip of my brush like right past that crease. So hopefully that's easier to see. It is darker. I like a darker eyeliner. Everybody's different. If you want to put it on dry, you can. I'll show you real quick. So there's a liquid line. And then if you take a dry, it's probably not going to be as dry as like if my brush had never gotten wet. It's a little bit of a smudgier version. So this is the dry one. It gets a little smudgier, and some people really prefer that. I did a couple of faces recently on different people and they preferred it dry. It's really just a matter of preference. But I find that the liquid helps it to go on a little bit smoother in that space. So then the next thing I do is I just kind of brush off those extras. And I never used to do my brows, but I do them now because when I don't fill them in, I feel like I've lost my top of my head. And I literally am just taking the leftover minerals that are on this brush from having done my liner and filling it in. So you can see the difference. Done, not done. I did try not to make it too thick. Sometimes people really want thicker eyebrows, but you can do that with this. Literally, I'm just going where my eyebrow hairs are. I don't know if I'm doing this right. I'm not a professional makeup artist, but this is what works for me. And actually, I find this a little bit more natural looking than a pencil, which I never really got into the habit of using. Because I feel like this just kind of like sticks to the hairs that are there, and it also is a little easier to control. I also find it pretty, like, you can undo it if you need to. So I'll, like, sometimes just undo, lighten it a little bit. Alright, hopefully that doesn't look too crazy to you all. Now that my hair's darker, I feel like it matches. Liner, brows. Oh, okay, so the last thing I didn't do, and I don't do this every time, sometimes I'm done for just a plain regular day look, but I do find that blush is pretty awesome. This is the I Do Believe You're Blushing blush. It's the medium tone. So there is a lighter one, which I also have. I don't use the misting spray on my brush when I do this. I don't know if that's right, but I get so little on my brush and I don't want it to go on too thick, in my opinion. I'm pretty rosy as it is, but I do like the light shimmer that this gives. And kind of the specificness of the rosiness rather than all over. So I just do the very tips of my cheeks. Some people will bring their blush all the way back, but I don't feel like I need to. So everybody's a little different on what you want to do. And I used, again, so little that I think this brush is going to last me a lifetime. Blush is going to last me a lifetime. And then for the bronzer, I recently at Winter Harvest traded somebody for bronzer because I had the Summer Loved bronzer. And I felt like it was a little dark, but then I got the Crowned All Over, and to be honest, I missed the Summer Loved, so I'm going to have to get that too. For the bronzer, the whole underneath your cheekbone thing, I just do a little bit right there, and then just kind of smudge it in. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll put this on. Oh, and by the way, I used the same brush I used for my blush. I don't think it matters too much, because I didn't have much on my brush to begin with. Since I miss my Summer Loved bronzer, sometimes what I'll do is I'll take the very edge of this brush in my multitasker. I know that's crazy because it's so dark. Brush off the excess and then kind of add a little bit extra contour down there. And someone asked me what the point of contouring is the other day, and pretty much what I understand it to be is just to actually give your face definition and accentuate the slimming and the shadows of your face. So sucking in your fish face helps you find where to do that. There are so many other ways you could contour, but I don't get all fancy. So this is just basic, but I've seen people contour like their nose area. I've seen contour their forehead. I just do the cheekbones because normally I need this to take me about 5 minutes. And all right, some quick tips that I've picked up over time for lips in particular. I will take my foundation with my tiny brush, and I forgot to do this earlier. Sometimes I will get it wet, but one of the things that drives me crazy is the way my skin right here is pinker. So sometimes I will just line the outside of my lip rather than lining my lip. And this lightens up that skin around. Of course, you have to watch all the little hairs that you have here. So what I do is, after I apply this, I take my big brush and go back over to kind of just clean that up. But I feel like that accentuates your lips a little without having to line your lips. All right, lipstick. I like the lipsticks a lot. I have Wish downstairs, and I have the lightest one. I don't remember what that is. I like it in the summer. This is I Adore, and this one just came out, I think, in the fall. It's a very natural color. You can see I put that on my lower lip with a light shimmer, and it goes on really nicely. So sometimes I do use, I think I had already put them on, the lip balms. I love the Young Living lip balms too, but I make my own also. All right, the other thing that I will sometimes do that I didn't do today that you could do is I will line just this corner of underneath my eye. I saw one of the tricks in the Savvy group where you could also line the bottom with Wanderlust for a little bit brighter. I did that yesterday. I really did like it. It was quite like a brighter eye look. And you can go a lot darker with the eyeshadow and you can get a lot more pigmentation. The Unscripted is another one that I tend to like to use. It's matte plum kind of color, and that comes in the Warm 2 kit also. I really like the eyeshadows in the Warm 2 kit. And then there's the lip glosses, which are awesome, and I keep that in my purse, so I don't have it here. But I hope if you have any questions, you'll drop them. I hope that that was a little bit helpful, and we'll continue to share more information. Have a great day.